Notice is hereby given that the mayor and city council of the city of Nogales will meet in regular session Wednesday, May 2nd at 6 p.m. I call this meeting to order and I welcome everybody in this council chamber to be here with us. Thank you very much. And please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for invocation. Mrs. Watson from the American Legion will lead us into invocation. Thank you very much.
Marino, members of the council, let us pray. Heavenly Father, we pray Thee to guide the members of the City Council in this meeting, that by Thy blessing they may be enabled to discharge their duties honestly and well. We pray also that You enlighten their minds with a clear vision of Your will for them, and strengthen their hands in all their undertaking. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Item number 4, we call to the public, and first one will be Chief Hector Robles from the Fire Department.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Well, first of all, I want to introduce to you David Gomez. David, can you come up, please?
You're in trouble.
Thank you. A surprise to you, huh? Mayor, I'm in receipt of this letter from a family member, and an incident happened this past Easter weekend. It did happen in Phoenix, but one of our local boys did something heroic, if you will. Okay, and I'm going to read this to you, to the public. It says, Dear Chief, this past Easter weekend, the Gomez family attended a family gathering in Phoenix, Arizona. On Saturday, April 7, 2012, at approximately 1:30 hours, my son, David Gomez, was playing in a relative's backyard at their home, which has an underground pool. My son noticed that my 2-year-old nephew had fallen into a pool and noticed that he went quickly underwater without a sound, or my nephew's father unnoticed. My son's quick thinking, immediate reaction, my son jumped into the pool and pulled him out of the water in a matter of seconds. At this time, the rest of the parents within the house and backyard noticed what had just occurred. Thanks to my son's quick action, there was no need for medical assistance. As soon as the child was pulled out of the pool, he was crying and scared. To that, Mayor and Council, I do want to give a certificate out to David Gomez for his heroic efforts on Easter weekend. David, congratulations. Good job. Good job. Thank you. Good job. Good job. Congratulations.
Next call to the public is Andrea D'Alessandro. How are you doing, Andrea?
Very well, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Andrea D'Alessandro, and I'm from Saurita, and I just am here today to introduce myself to you. Some of you on the council know me already, but I am a candidate for Legislative District 2 representative. You may have heard last week the Department of Justice approved the maps, and now all of Santa Cruz County is in the same Legislative District 2. Previously, I had run in Tubac, Sonoita, and Patagonia and Elgin. I've been getting involved in the community in a couple of different ways. I've been volunteering at Wade Carpenter Middle School, and I even got to hear their mariachi band last week when they were in Tucson. And I've volunteered for the to judge the senior projects this year, yes, and you can sign me up for next year and the year after that. I promise that I will not introduce harmful legislation like that 62-mile law ever. I can remember what the first person in Santa Cruz County, it was in Tubac, they said, oh, they never remember us. And I remember what the last voter I spoke to yesterday in the Western Precinct told me, they come for our votes, but they forget us after. I pledge to you that I will stand up for the right thing for you all the time, and I will come back. I just hope that you don't get sick of me, because some of you have seen me quite a bit. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
And good luck to you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 3, Marco A. Leal.
Muy buenas tardes, soy Marco Leal, vecino de la calle Potrero y calle Ellis. Yo nunca, es la primera vez que estoy en un concilio porque siempre viví muy feliz, confiado en nuestras autoridades, bien confortable, bien cómodo, pero hoy traigo una pequeña queja. Primeramente, saludar a los miembros honorables miembros del concilio. Estamos bien contentos con ustedes, trabajo excelente de la gente que yo he escuchado. Pero traigo una inconformidad, tengo que manifestar. Buenas tardes. Dice que, la voy a leer en español y ahorita alguien que me ayude a traducirlo en inglés. Estoy aquí para expresar públicamente mi desacuerdo como parte de nuestra comunidad acerca del mural que ha sido pintado en la esquina de Ellis y Potrero. Primero, quiero mencionar que los vecinos nunca fuimos consultados por las autoridades ni por las personas que pintarían el mural, cosa que pensamos que debería haber sido. Ya que no se planeó hacerlo en algún lugar dedicado a expresiones culturales. Este es un mural, sí, es que se le puede llamar mural, porque yo entiendo que un mural es algo agradable a la vista, algo que nos gusta, que queremos admirar, que queremos ver, que día con día lo vemos y nos motiva a trabajar, a salir, a cumplir con nuestros deberes como ciudadanos. Pero en este caso, y aunque respetamos que haya sido pintado en un muro de propiedad privada, se respeta el derecho a la propiedad privada, no podemos ignorar su efecto a nuestra comunidad y a nuestras familias. Este mural de inicio nos pareció de mal gusto, ya que en lugar de presentar temas constructivos y agradables a la vista, se centra en temas conflictivos, de calidad moral cuestionable y que consideramos que distorsionan la imagen de nuestra pequeña comunidad y que nos hace parecer como una comunidad de muy bajo nivel cultural, ¿no? Nos está poniendo como papás de pandilleros, realmente no. Y de costumbres irrespetuosas, somos muy respetuosos, formamos una comunidad muy vieja de la Potrero y Ellis, que es Crawford, Nun y Potrero son las comunidades más viejas de Nogales y merecen un respeto al 100% de todos nosotros, es mi opinión, ¿no? Tal como sucede en áreas donde abunda el graffiti. El graffiti se supone que es donde están los más bajos niveles de la sociedad, gente reprimida, gente que no está de acuerdo con sus autoridades. En el caso de nosotros no, somos conscientes de que tenemos unas autoridades bien efectivas, con mucha experiencia y aparte de eso, muy honorables. Y no, con el fin de evitar injustos, de ser injustos al rechazar el mencionado mural, consultamos a otros vecinos y expertos en bienes raíces, cuya respuesta confirma nuestro parecer. A nadie de nuestra comunidad le gusta el mural y los expertos en bienes raíces aseguran que afectará el valor de nuestras propiedades, ya que presenta una idea inadecuada e incorrecta del nivel de personas que vivimos ahí, porque somos personas de trabajo que día con día salimos a luchar. Tenemos muchos años viviendo ahí, estamos orgullosos de esta área, rechazamos todo aquello que la afecte negativamente. Es nuestro derecho y nuestra obligación luchar por mantenerla como es en realidad, un lugar histórico. Pedimos que el mural sea removido y que en el futuro se nos consulte respetando nuestros derechos y la imagen real de nuestra comunidad. Mi hijo es un veterano de guerra y lo primero que vio y me dijo, ¿qué es eso? Me dijo, ¿en dónde están mis esfuerzos por llevar el país a una nación libre y segura para la gente que vivimos aquí? Eso es con lo que nos están pagando. Híjole, yo estoy en contra de eso también, le dijo. Él sirvió en el ejército, estuvo en lo más duro también últimamente. Me siento muy orgulloso de él y si tuviera otro hijo más se lo daría al país para defender la libertad de este país. Eso es todo, muy buenas tardes y pues es todo lo que tengo que decirles. Si alguien quiere... ¿Alguien voluntario que lo lea en inglés?
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Nomás que lo disculpo porque en esta área de nuestra sesión de cabildo no podemos nosotros como regidores contestarle así comentarios, pero con mucho gusto mi oficina está abierta y podemos hablar de esto.
Yo tengo mucha confianza en mis autoridades.
Muchas gracias, señor. Le agradezco mucho. Yes. Eric, go ahead, read it. Yes, please.
I'm not going to ad-lib.
No.
I want to express my disagreement as a part of our community on the so-called mural which has been painted in the corner of Ellis and Potrero. First of all, I want to mention that we, the neighbors, were never consulted, neither by the authorities who authorized this mural nor by the persons that were going to paint it, which is something we believe should have been done since it was not planned to be done on a location dedicated to cultural expressions, but in our community. Although we respect that it was painted on a privately owned wall, we cannot ignore its effect to our community and families. This mural, we didn't like it as soon as it started taking shape because instead of presenting constructive and nice to see subjects, it contains conflicting and morally questionable subjects that we consider distort the image of our small community as a community of people with a low cultural level, with disrespectful habits, as it happens in locations where graffiti abounds. In order to avoid being unfair by rejecting the before-mentioned mural, we consulted other neighbors as well as real estate experts. Their response only confirmed our concerns. No neighbor liked the mural, and the real estate experts believe that it will affect the value of our property since it presents an inadequate and incorrect idea of the level of people that live here. We have been living here for a good number of years, and we are proud of this area. We reject all that affects it in a negative way. It is our right and obligation to fight to keep it the way it really is. We ask that the mural be removed and that in the future we are respectfully included in decisions about issues that may affect the rights and real image of our community. A concerned neighbor, Marco Eliab.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Delia Florencia González.
Muy buenas tardes a todo el mundo, al concilio y a los aquí presentes.
¿Se puede dar su nombre y su domicilio,
Mi
por favor?
nombre es Delia Florencia González y pertenezco a Home Circle. y también a North Highland. Tengo dos casas, una aquí y otra acá en la misma área.
Gracias.
Y es lo mismo que el señor acaba de exponer sobre el mural. La verdad es vergonzante. Yo tengo viviendo en Arizona desde 1981. Mis hijos los crié ahí donde vivo ahora. Y se me hace vergonzoso que en un área tan bonita, tan conservadora, pongan una cosa que yo que voy y vengo a México porque yo soy mexicana y solo en los barrios bajos existe este tipo de cosas en un área tan bonita, tan conservadora, porque en parte hay una parte que es un poquito más antigua que donde yo vivo. Se ha conservado bonito. La gente que vive ahí es gente bonita, agradable, amable, educada, y esto viene a bajarle lo bonito a ese espacio de Nogales. Yo creo que es la parte antigua de Nogales, esa área hacia la frontera, la parte antigua, y es una queja nada más sobre el mural. Yo quisiera que tuviéramos una atención sobre él, y les agradezco su atención.
Muchas gracias, señora González. Our next speaker is Leticia Muñozcano.
Good evening, Honorable City of Nogales Mayor Arturo Garino, honorable members of the City Council, Mr. Shane Dilley, City Manager, Mr. John Kissinger, Assisting City Manager, and members of City Government. I'm speaking on behalf of the 180 people that have signed this petition requesting that the city remove this mural from our neighborhood. We, the 180 signers petitioning your action, come again to request the removal of the mural and public images on the corner of Ellis and Potrero Street. Respectfully requesting this immediate action for the second time. The very ill owner of the property where the images are located has stated he wants the images removed, but he is afraid of legal retaliation by the artist. As you all should be aware, none of us are lawyers or professional artists, but we can judge what we believe to be offensive and obscene. The images on Ellis and Potrero, a residential, private neighborhood, are at least offensive and at most obscene. Art and free expression may not be a crime, but it should require permits and residents' approvals to be allowed in the community. This petition should be heard at a regular city council meeting where Nogalians would have an opinion and a say on this request. This mural offends the military. It offends women. There are offenses to our children, and there exists an area on that mural for public notices that may not be relevant or appropriate for our neighborhood. That which is indecent is within your power to stop. The artist claims the right of freedom of speech guaranteed in the First Amendment of the Constitution. Some of the reasons the residents in this area are asking for its removal are: we do not consider it art, we see it as graffiti. Few residents even look at it as vandalism. As residents, we were never contacted to seek our approval or agreement to have this painted in our neighborhood. We claim the right of privacy in our persons, and homes guaranteed in the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. The artist may have the right to paint any image he wants in a public area, but he does not have the right to invade a neighborhood with images we consider indecent. Definitions of what is indecent may vary, but if a person were to walk the corner of Ellis and Potrero completely unclothed, that person would be arrested for indecent exposure. We consider the images at the corner of Ellis and Potrero indecent. We are fully aware that it has been done on private property, and we are not against freedom of speech. However, when it becomes offensive, disrespectful, and denigrates individuals and communities, preventive action must be taken by our local government. Placement of public images with political and social images and messages in a residential area which may denigrate, demean, and discriminate against some members of our society and our community are within your power to accept or deny. Our women are respectful housewives. Some are professionals in our community. We are not sex symbols, and they are being portrayed in this artistic expression. Our children are being encouraged to use alcohol. The use of the code word that if one inquires in the Urban Dictionary, one will find that it is offensive language. Our troops are not promoting wars. They are not killers. They merely defend our right to freedom, including our First Amendment. But this artist is abusing that right for his personal gain. This mural is an advertising call for more taggers to come and express themselves in our community. We feel intimidated by the activist, so-called artist, and feel threatened within our own neighborhood. And now, it goes so far as that he wants to demand financial compensation in order to take down his work, and that no one asked him to perform this work. Our property values will be affected greatly as we have consulted with realtors that are experts on residential properties. What is to become of our historical houses? How will we talk to our children about our rich local heritage? This mural has nothing to do, and these expressions have nothing to do with our heritage. We wish to be heard by you as our government, as the caretakers of our city, to free our neighborhood from these blackmailers that are using the public opinion to gain power and still demand monetary compensation now to eliminate an eyesore that we did not ask them to paint. We are a respected and historical neighborhood. We are proud of our elder residents, our traditional families, who have worked hard to keep up the beauty of our homes and continue to invest in the restoration and betterment of our own homes. In the past few weeks, we have felt disrespected and ignored by the people who have been elected to represent and fight for us. At a minimum, residents of Nogales, and especially members of the affected neighborhood, should be given the opportunity to state whether or not we feel we have been denigrated, demeaned, and discriminated against. If Mr. Liniedo, a community insider, considers that it's his right to stand for this aberration, we will have nothing to do with it. In closing, Honorable Mayor Garino and members of the council, we, the 180 signers, express our disappointment. We request that you exercise your authority and order these images removed.
Thank you very much. Well, as you know, I did mention that there's no comment from the City Council during call to the public, but I did have plans of actually having conduct a meeting in your neighborhood with all the residents of that area, because I do have a concern, and like I can hear one person, I want to hear 150 people talk too. So I'm very interested in your comments. I'm very interested in your ideas of how we can proceed with this. There's ways of us working a public art policy. I understand the difference between neighborhood art and art in commercial areas. So I do plan to meet with you, Mrs. Munoz-Cano. I've met with you several times, and if it's possible, I would like to contact you pretty soon, and we can get together as a community and find out how we can proceed with this, so that our legal department and our city manager can find ways of how to produce a policy, something that we're confronted with that we don't have a public art policy within the city of Nogales. Our standard development code identifies other areas, does not identify that. So we find ourselves in a situation right now. But I do understand, and believe me, it's important. Myself being an artist, you know, it's important. I know what art is, and I know what a message is. You can produce a message with art, but you can also be negative, not always be positive. So we have to work together as a community. Some of the comments that were made that possibly we, the city, had authorized it. No, we didn't. We never had any authorization on this. When we found out about it, it was already being constructed. I did speak with Mr. Manuel Lopez, the owner of the property, and as you say, Mr. Munoz-Cano, he did say he wants it down. So at this moment, we need to be able to assure that we do both sides properly, and as a governing body for the city of Nogales, we're going to do our best for that. I want to thank you very much for being here, and you know, we're going to work on this. And some of the comments on the newspaper did not come out of my mouth, and did not come out of the mouth of any of the council. So, you know, we have to, I hope you understand that, and we're going to look into it. I want to thank you very much for voicing your opinions and your comments. Thank you very much. Item number 5, Mayor and Council's report on current events. Mr. Diaz.
April 18th, Councilman Parada and myself attended the emergency training exercise conducted here in Santa Cruz County involving all of the agencies. It was a very good training exercise. It showed the officers, the emergency personnel, their strengths and weaknesses, and they should program one a year, because they do lack a lot of training. And when they did something this big, it got even emergency personnel from Tucson, the bomb squad, everybody was involved with this. And it was a very good training exercise, like they say, and they should do it like once a year, I think, to better our emergency personnel. Also, I'd like to comment that our local BFW Post 2066 gave out $3,150 in scholarships to different schools, Voice of Democracy, Patriots Day. We already handed out the checks, and there's a lot of lucky kids out there that are going to be going to school. Also, American Legion, VFW, we're gearing up for Memorial Day. we're gonna have Memorial Day services at our local cemetery. And afterwards, we're gonna have a open house at the BFW after services, 10 o'clock at the cemetery, Monday, May 28th. Also, I just want to make it real brief here because we've got a long agenda. I attended most of the opening ceremonies for the Cinco de Mayo celebrations across the line, and I just want to comment that it was great. The Mexican mayor from Nogales, Sonora gave us a red carpet treatment, and I enjoyed it very much. My wife was there, and other members of this council were there, and it was a blast. It was great. We should do it more often. That's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ancian.
I just want to say that the Charles Mingus jazz concert was excellent, as well as in Nogales, Sonora, as well as here, and I'm sure other council people will go ahead and mention it. And that's basically all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Parra?
Yeah, I got together with the Gear Up School to do a cleanup around the neighborhoods, and then we did it on the weekend. And then I attended First Things First, was really a good program and a good presentation with parenting for kids from 1 year to 5 years old. And then I did go to the emergency drill with Joe Diaz, and we gave out 2 awards to the NHS ROTC military awards for excellence in scholastics. And we are now going to give out 2 other awards to the Rio Rico ROTC, the Army ROTC. And like Joe says, Mr. Diaz just mentioned, everybody's invited to the Memorial Days ceremonies at the cemetery, May the 28th. And that's all I got.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parra. Vice Mayor?
Yes, I had 3 persons from the community call me complaining about odds and ends. I called Mr. Dilly and Mr. Kissinger. They took immediate action. Everything was taken care of, and I thank you very much. I also talked to the mayor this afternoon. We had a teenager from the high school missing, a pom-pom. Luckily, she was found across the border. She was brought over, and our coach from NHS showed up before the meeting and asked me to talk to the mayor so that the little girl could be released to her parents and hopefully given some hospital treatment. So I thank you very much again for that.
Thank you.
And Chief, I also want to thank you for your people getting involved with it and taking care of and helping the parents. And I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Councilman.
Okay, I attended the induction ceremony at the Pima Air and Space Museum for Mr. Ralph O'Neill. I also attended the Monólogo Memorias de Quino at the Consulado Mexicano. I participated with Mr. Genesian at the walkathon on child abuse awareness. We did a good job. We walked maybe 3 miles. We did okay. I also attended the First Things First event, the Charles Mingus groundbreaking ceremony. I held the San Andrews annual fashion show. I attended the presentation of the Fiesta de Mayo participants right here at City Hall. I also attended the delegation from Ukraine, and we discussed several topics about Nogales. I also attended some of the festivities across the line by special invitation of the mayor in Nogales, Sonora. I also want to invite everybody. We're going to have an Hermanamiento Ambos Nogales football soccer tournament. That's going to be Sunday, May the 6th at 12 at Fletcher Park, free. Both teams, 2 from Nogales, Sonora, and 2 from Nogales, Arizona. It's 88 participants, and this is going to be the first time this event is happening. Also, I want to invite all of you to the Fiestas de Mayo event. It's going to be May the 5th at Pearson Park. Also, I'm going to take the opportunity of thanking Chief Robles. The delegation from Nogales, Sonora, and from Nogales, Arizona on the Fiestas de Mayo were there yesterday. I mean, they were so happy, a lot of photos, and they went all the way up in the letter. I mean, thank you, Chief, I really appreciate it. That's all.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to apologize, I've been under the weather. But we're going to have a softball tournament. 18 teams are here.
What do you have every year?
Mm-hmm. Free of charge.
Good.
80 teams with their wives and kids are here.
It's the same tournament you've been having for several years.
Mhm.
It's a good event.
Mr. Pacheco is
Yes, it's a
in
good
charge
event.
of it.
It's a good event.
Other than that, I've been under the weather, I'm sorry.
You're doing a good job. You get well, sir. Thank you very much. My report is, I started the month by getting invited to ride the vintage passenger train. Mr. Hanesian was with me on that train and reminiscing the good old days of Nogales and Rio Rico and trips to Mexico, which was very nice with Union Pacific. After that train ride, I attended a very important meeting with Union Pacific and the Port Authority on the efforts of future intermodal systems and also future train travel, not only for passengers but for the produce and the maquiladora industry from Mexico, to increase it and to improve the system, which was very important. I attended the Farm Fest ribbon cutting ceremony with the food bank at the junior high school, which was very good. At that opportunity there that I spent with was Mr. Grijalva, Congressman Grijalva, the Walmart donated a brand new truck to the community food bank, which is something that is always needed, the equipment that they need for their efforts, because they supply over 3,000 homes and needed food that not only in Nogales and Santa Cruz County, but they go all the way to Tombstone, they go to Benson, St. David, all the way to Wilcox and Sierra Vista. So it's a good opportunity, and the help that was given by Walmart and Congressman Grijalva was very much needed in our community. The same day I attended the Easter dinner with Casita Santa Cruz, which was hosted by the Nogales High School Skills Club. This is their second annual. This is a group of kids that have worked very hard to assist the elderly and be partners and friends with them in times of the age that we are all going to one day, that we need the support. And it was very important for me and my wife to be there. Attended the Hall of Fame recognition at the Pima Air Museum, where Ralph O'Neill Air Force, one of the very first Air Force A's from Nogales, was inducted into the Hall of Fame. He shot several planes during World War I, and he was one of our own in Nogales. So that was very important and a great opportunity to have one of our local members of the city, of the community, be inducted to the Hall of Fame there. Had a meeting with Bobby Lundstrom, a chairwoman of the Transportation Board, Mr. Dilly and I, and representatives of the board of the transportation ADOT system in Phoenix. We discussed over 12 projects, future projects for the city of Nogales, which are much needed, not very expensive projects, but much needed. Traffic signals, left turn signals, some road work, some work at the Mariposa Port of Entry, but it was a very productive meeting that we had, and I'm glad that they were here and they spent some time. Actually, we had 2 meetings with them. I also attended the ribbon cutting at the Carondelet Rehabilitation Center, which is another chapter of Carondelet Hospital, which is very much needed in our city, and another component for the growth and the quality of life for our citizens. Was part of the committee and attended the Child Abuse Awareness Walkathon. Even though my colleagues did the walking, I was there for the ribbon cutting and reading the proclamation that was given from the members of the City Council in my office, and I think that was very important. This is our second annual efforts to assist that program, which is very good for child abuse. That same, an hour after that, I attended the First Things First with my colleagues also. Mr. Parada was there, Mr. Diaz, Mr. Hanesian, and Mrs. Lopez were there. And as Mr. Parada said, that was a great event. A lot of opportunities for our children, opportunities not only knowing what they have in their surroundings, but the attention that they got in the areas that they were able to work on there. I wish I could have spent more time there, but I was divided between 3 events at the same time. Right at the same time, also I attended and I walked over to the corner of Bejarano and Western and attended the Charles Mingus groundbreaking event on Western Avenue. That is a project that the members of the City Council and myself were able to work on a public-private funding to be able to have a green area for the City of Nogales and a great public art for the City of Nogales. I attended the Jazz Festival that evening. It's unbelievable what we have in our City of Nogales and the opportunities and these events that culturally we want to bring to our city, not only with our Hispanic heritage, but also with the Buffalo Soldiers and the opportunities that we can bring just by a simple event that we have on a Friday. And you know, there's a lot of people that say that there's nothing to do in Nogales. There's a lot to do in Nogales. And the City of Nogales does a lot, and with the schools, with these nonprofit organizations. But these opportunities that we had these past months or so, with the events that were with the mariachis, with the events with the Charles Mingus, the jazz, the people that came from Tucson, Mr. Tittlebaugh, Sue Nielsen, from all these organizations, they are working very hard for our community, and that's the collaboration that we're having as a city, as a government, and as image building in our community. Met with the Animal Control Group of volunteers in reference to finding solutions for more humane treatment for animals. I met with Supervisor Manny Ruiz and some representatives from Tucson. We're hoping to work on an ordinance for that and something that is much needed in our community. Also met with a group of elected officials and reporters from Germany, France, and the United States, and I had a roundtable discussion to discuss immigration reform, human rights, and security issues along our border and the trade with Mexico. That meeting was myself and Councilwoman Lopez. We had it here, and it was very, very informative, not only for them, but for us. From the information, one of them was a city councilman from France, and their scope of government is way different than the scope of government in the United States, but it was very nice. It was a great opportunity we had there. Attended the presentation of the candidates for Cinco de Mayo, the Queen, and two princesses from Nogales, actually from Sonora, but two representatives from Nogales, Arizona were with us, who will be, either one of them will be a princess, which we still don't know yet which one's going to be the Queen, but they were there with us in across the line, and it was so surprising for us to be sitting in the auditorium and watching the selection of the princesses and queens and the different categories, to find out that the one for the Queen of the Fiestas de Mayo is one of our students from the Nogales High School in Nogales, Sonora. So that's what you call sisterhood agreement. Okay, so one of our own representatives won the distinction of being the Queen for Nogales, Sonora, and it's one of our students. And then we went to the fair, like Mr. Councilman Diaz said, and it was a great event that they had over there. It was the event they have over there it's a week long. You know, our event here is just one day, but we hope to have a successful event this weekend. And Councilwoman, I'm sorry to say that I won't be attending your Fiestas de Mayo. I'll be at the ASU. I guess the Vice Mayor will be over there too. We both have relatives graduating from the university, but I hope everything goes well.
But you'll be there
on
the
Sunday.
next day.
I'll be here on Sunday, but I won't make it for the fiestas. But I'm sure you're going to have a great event. And then to top it off, we have the Relay for Life for cancer survivors and cancer people that have not survived. And I was kind of like in shock to see that when I was walking around the field and the luminaries that they had, there had to be over 1,000 of them around the field. I didn't know that we had that many people in our city that had been stricken with cancer, either are surviving or going through it right now, or are no longer with us. But I spent about 6 hours with them. I was able to walk some laps around the field with them and talk to the people, some of the survivors. But that is a well-deserved event that was absent for over 2 years in the city of Nogales, and it was brought back by some fine people from the city of Nogales. And I'll say it again, and that's image building. That is our city. These are our people from Nogales, like you are our people from Nogales. And I'm very proud of you, and I'm very proud of everybody in our city of Nogales representing the city the way it's supposed to be. Image building, very important. I want to thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I know you want to move on, but it's difficult to toot your own horn, and I thought that I would just interject something that would fall under the category of an update on a current event, if I might have just a second.
Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on an annual basis, the Arizona-Mexico Commission recognizes individuals with an award named after their first executive director of the organization, the Distinguished Tony Certosimo Award. Tony embodied all that AMC strives to accomplish in advancing bilateral relationships between Arizona and Mexico. Since 1992 is when the first award came out. They've honored 21 individuals over the course of 20 years. My office received an email middle of the day yesterday, and the email announced that in this particular round of considerations, 3 border mayors were submitted for consideration, and that the board of directors of the AMC had unanimously determined to recognize the outstanding work done by Mayors Garino, Mayors Garino, Gomez from Douglas, thank you, and Mayor Escamilla from San Luis as recipients of this year's Distinguished Award. And that'll be delivered or presented at the AMC plenary meeting this summer in June. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. It's hard again to toot your own horn, but in representing the city of Nogales and trying to change the image around, that certainly is noteworthy of bringing forward at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. You're going to do your current events at the end, Mr. Dillon? Yes. Okay. I want to thank you very much again, sir. Item number 6, discussion and possible action regarding office and staff for the entire council. As presented by Councilman Parada and Councilman Felix. Do you want to go into discussion first?
Right. The discussion is that we need more room, especially I have my own office at home, and it's just getting piled up with a lot of our business here from city business. And we need a bigger room to leave some of this stuff here that they're more important, that we have access to get them right away and bring it to the meeting. Where we're at now is too small to be used for a walk-in closet, I guess. Space that we have now. I think that we occupy two spaces. If when you leave, you lock the door. Nobody can get in it. I think we should share one of those offices or make a change to move some other directors to that area and make the change. But we really need that, and we need our own secretary to do our work.
Well, you have been using my office, and you have been using my assistant for the past year.
Well, we don't have it.
No, yeah, you don't have your own assistant.
Right, that's
yeah.
what we want.
Yeah, there's no problem with that. I mean,
Okay.
if you guys
And it's
want
open
to
as you, any suggestions or whatever.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, is Letty not available for us? She's supposed to be the secretary for all of us also.
Oh yeah, she's done the work.
And she's doing a great job. I don't know if you ever asked Letty for any of your...
Now, I used to use Celine to do some work, because Letty's got enough work to be doing herself, to be writing letters to the legislators, to the senators, to our Congress people. If Joe and I have been doing all this work with our Congress people, trying to keep communicating with them on a monthly basis of the situations that we have on the border crossing and the economy that's starting us here in Nogales, we keep in tight and on HERF money. We're trying to fight the HERF money we have to be writing letters to everybody, right, that's in Arizona. That's not only affect us, it affects the whole state.
Well, you can continue using my assistant and.
Still have it?
Not Celine, I got a new one on Monday coming in. She's been hired already.
The reason why I don't want to use your assistance, because once I asked her to do something for me, having a meeting with you, and I was expecting that person to be present in the meeting, and when I asked her, what's wrong with the person that I asked for? He said, well, the mayor didn't want to have her in the meeting. So
I thought you said Celine helped you out.
No, I want a secretary who's going to be work for us.
Oh, okay.
And you can do whatever you want with yours.
Okay. Well, it's easy. That's all. We're working on the budget like I did 3 months ago.
It's open for discussion and to take action.
Yeah, go ahead. Anybody else have anything?
I agree with it.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Okay, I agree with.
Yes. And Mr. Parra?
Well, I think, Mr. Mayor, you know, the people are there. I mean, whenever I've needed to have a letter sent, I mean, there's the legal department that will more than write the letter. I know John Kissinger will more than write the letter. I know Celine did several times. I know Letty puts in a lot of time in anything that we ask her to. And I agree. I mean, if we could have offices like the supervisors, everybody has an office and a secretary, would be very nice. We're just not in that situation. But again, as Mr. Parra said, it's open to discussion, right? It's open to, maybe we can find some way whether we can use one of the other rooms and we can be there. As far as keeping all this paperwork, you know, maybe we should become green. We've been discussing this with Mr. Dilly, and everybody now just has a computer or an iPad, and we eliminate all these things, and we eliminate having to store anything, right? I don't store anything. If I want this deal, I just pull it out of the internet. So I don't keep anything anymore, right? I used to, then I threw it all away, right? Except some paperwork that I need for future references.
But we're talking on that on the green issue on the budget. Are we $15,000?
There's a consideration item for the council, $15,000. We roll that in, and that might solve a lot of the paper issue that you guys are struggling with.
Mr. Diaz, what do you think?
Well, like Mr. Parada says, we need to work out a plan where we can do follow-ups with everything we do. We need somebody to help us do our follow-ups, emails, calls, like calling our Congress people, our senators, reminding them, hey, we're still here. We need what we talked about. We need an answer. We need something done. So we do, as a council, need help in reaching our objectives. We could use Letty or John or whatever. We just need somebody that can be assigned to us. That we can say, hey, we need this done.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Dilly.
The city clerk, one of the roles of the city clerk is to serve the council at large. Obviously, the mayor in the past has, the mayor's offered his assistant up to help coordinate, write letters, do whatever the rest of the council is in need of. John and I, Aaron, Mr. White, we've tried to make ourselves available for whatever needs that there be. I remember a recent request was to thank Senator Griffin and the governor for their activity up at the Capitol and in support of the permit, the special weight permit, and the distribution of funds to benefit us locally. And those letters were generated and they went out. Obviously, if we're talking adding another FTE to the budget, that'll be a budget consideration, and we can draw up what those numbers would be so that you can take a look at that as we move forward in the budget. But that, that's a consequence of that decision, and consequence doesn't mean it's a bad or a good. It's just there's always a consequence to every decision that we make. As far as the the office space, maybe some more clarification in terms of what you're really looking for so that we can try to help you out the best we can. Obviously, there's limitations, physical limitations, but are you looking for a place where you can have more of a conference setting where you have groups of people come in and talk, or is this more of a place where you have file cabinets and desks, and what exactly are we talking about?
It's open for discussions.
I'm sorry?
And or both.
You mentioned like in storage.
No, we want to pick a good office. You know, we want to get back to 21st century.
Do you have something in mind?
Yeah, this is my suggestion. Maybe you can move over to his secretary's office and let us take over your office. That's one suggestion, to get some of the space. We're looking for space. Because he doesn't need a secretary outside. And you're the chief deputy here. You're the administrator of the city.
I'm not a chief deputy.
I mean, you're the administrator of the city. You're the chief administrator. So he can handle this. There's room for secretaries in that room, even a secretary in that other room for us to do our work. We're doing these discussions, ideas of what they might be.
Appreciate that.
Go ahead.
Mr. Parada, you mean let this room, that's what you meant, or what, let's see.
Like mayor's got two big rooms.
Oh,
One
okay.
for the secretary. I think the secretary can be in the same room with him, and Mr. Dealey can take over that room, and then we can take over his room. We'll move everything around. There's just a discussion here.
And what's wrong with this office that you have already?
Too small. And I cannot be keeping some of my stuff there. I like to come down and relax and do my work. And have somebody do some of my work.
No, well, to have somebody do some of your work,
Yeah, but like I say, I have a bad taste having somebody doing my work. So that's a discussion, I put it in for action or whatever. So,
Go ahead. Okay. Yes.
I'm happy with what I have right now, and I'm really happy everybody has helped with whatever I need. So, to me, I really don't need it. That's my opinion.
still under discussion.
Yeah.
Get possible action.
Vice Mayor?
I agree with Mr. Parada. If we can have something for us, nothing big, nothing exaggerated, just a place where we can hold our meetings or get-togethers or discussions, whatever.
Okay. Well, let's wait for Mr. Hanesian to come back and then see what he's got to say. The new one? Yeah. Yes, I will. Anything, Mr. Hanesian?
No.
Before we vote on this?
I think that we'll take a look at the Freedom Towers and see if we can, if I can have an office there and direct from New York City. You know, I think it might be.
Mr. Dilly, do you have anything?
I do. I don't know exactly what you're voting on.
Well, I don't need
So
it.
some clarity on a motion would be appreciated, but let me put this out, food for thought. Any department head or either John or myself occupying the office space next to you is just simply inappropriate. And I say that because we have to deal with sensitive personnel information. We have to conduct disciplinary action, we have to do personnel evaluations, and to do that in an environment where it's not secure is not appropriate. And so that option is one that I would strongly discourage against. Doesn't mean that there aren't other options to satisfy the request of council. And if the motion from council is to try to find a solution we will do our absolute best to try to satisfy the request. But I would suggest that the motion be specific enough so that we have some direction to go on.
Why don't we table it and discuss it further?
I'd suggest we do that too, because I think this needs a little bit of discussion. Because I come in every day. I sometimes stay till 7 o'clock at night, okay? And the mayor has always had an office. And the mayor has always had an assistant, according to the policy, okay? That works for the mayor. And I've always, when Celine was there, I gave her the authorization, and I talked to every single one of you that you could use Celine for anything you wanted to. Because I wanted to help my council and I wanted to have consensus with the council. If they want a secretary, well, they can get a secretary. If the budget allows us to get a secretary, you know. But I don't think my secretary needs to be in my office because I have sensitive business in my office. And sometimes I have to close the door because I don't want her to hear, or whoever's there, or anybody else, because I talk to some people differently, okay? So, if you want to put another secretary in that middle room and have two secretaries in one, which would be, why spend another $30,000 when you have one that can do the work? And on Monday she's coming in. It's up to you. But I'd rather table it and discuss it and like the vice mayor says.
You go for 3 days and you lock the door for 3 days.
Well, you know.
I mean, if you got something that's really real secret, put it in your briefcase. And if it's something important,
lock up the door in my
something
office?
real expensive.
You want me to leave my door open for you?
Leave it open for us.
My
I
office?
think we're on the same level because you're not the senior administrator.
No, you're
We
talking
wanna
about my
use it.
office or
Yeah.
the secretary's
Both
office?
office. When you walk out, you lock it up.
Well, I have to lock my office.
Both offices.
No, there's items there that I'm talking.
Okay,
Yeah.
lock your office, but that leave them with that door open.
Yeah. Well, I can leave that door open.
Okay.
Yeah. I can leave that door. Do you want to use that office?
Absolutely.
Let's table it and sit down and discuss it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Or we can, just as we can use his office at his house. You can
use
sit down.
You got room
You
in
can
there?
sit
Maybe it's not big enough.
You got room?
Not big enough?
Yeah.
But I'll
Let's
have
go to
you
table.
have you.
Second it.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's been tabled. Item number 7, discussion and possible action regarding the implementation of strategy and procedures for the elimination of abandoned and hazardous structures within the city of Nogales. Mr. Hanesian.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. We've been discussing with legal, and the idea is if you go around Nogales, you're going to find several buildings and residences that have been burnt or are abandoned. And I think it's time we took some action on it. I mean, you know, I see this problem everywhere. I see it at trailer parks where there's abandoned trailers and they're able to remove them. And we have the same thing here in Nogales. We have houses and commercial buildings that have burnt, and they just seem to stay there forever. And the people pick up the insurance and they go ahead and just leave and buy a house somewhere else and leave the burnt structure there. So I would like to have legal come up with some ordinance that we can follow. And again, in certain areas in Tucson, again, you know, at the El Dorado Estates, they now, if you have a house there, you have to have insurance. If that house burns, that they will be able to demolish it and fix it up immediately, or demolish it and leave an empty lot. It's the same thing at the Skyline, same thing through many parts of Tucson. There's parts of Tucson that don't have that. But I'm looking for something. I mean, if we're going to clean up the community, we have to eliminate all these buildings. I mean, I can go through, and I've shown several people, Mr. Machado, Mr. Dilly, and I've gone through Nogales, and I can pick out 100 houses and buildings. Some have burned, some are falling apart, some are 100 years old and are falling apart. But I mean, we've got to clean up the community. We can't let it go and look at Detroit in the next 20 years. So we have to clean it up, and I would like to come up with something that will guide us through. Either we start with a letter to the people, and then whatever it takes to get legal to go ahead and either get that place cleaned, or go ahead and condemn it and take it away from the people and let us do it. Mr. Machado?
I wish it was that
It's
simple.
not that easy. I was gonna turn around and look at Mr. Machado, 'cause we've discussed this before.
It's all a matter of money, Mr. Machado. How much money the council wants to throw at it. We have the ordinances and the codes available for use of, to address hazardous or abandoned buildings. We can create a procedure to identify those. We can create a procedure as to how we're gonna address each one, and then we can figure out which buildings are gonna be given priority, and all that. But once we come down to the bottom line, it's gonna depend on how much money you want to devote to that project. The other, all the other work, the implementation of the procedure and the policy and how we're gonna do it, we can do that. It's not gonna cost you anything. We're all willing to do that. But once we get down to actually going after a particular property or properties, then that's gonna be a money consideration, and you're gonna have to figure that out.
We're assuming that. It's an assumption. Because how do we know that if we go to the people, I have had this at the trailer park, where I go to the people and they just give me the title to that trailer. And then it's up to me to decide what to do with it, okay? But they say, you keep it, okay? Now, how do we know? We're assuming that these people are gonna fight for that property.
Well, but
why would they fight for it?
But even then, that's gonna carry a money tag. If we're given property that's abandoned or hazardous or so on, then we incur that liability.
Yes,
And if we knock it down and there's hazardous material there, then we incur the cost of having to take that out. I mean, we may be getting a piece of property for free that's gonna end up costing us $100,000.
But obviously, we'd have to check it out before if there was asbestos or anything like that. Because if there was asbestos, basically, I would assume they had insurance, and that's another assumption. The insurance would have to be involved in that, right? So, well.
Not necessarily, but I mean, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, once we can create the procedure you want, and we're willing to do that. Identify properties, figure out what we're gonna do, how many steps we're gonna give, warnings to the property owner and so on. But once we get to the point where they're gonna give us the property, or we're gonna condemn it, or whatever, then we're gonna have to figure out a dollar amount.
Okay, well, let's get to that point. The idea is let's get to that point and make that decision then. Because as it is right now, I can go through Nogales and pick out 25 burnt buildings. I mean, it's 25 now, in another 5 years it'll be 25 more, it'll be 50 burnt buildings in Nogales. And again, if we're trying to clean up the image of Nogales, we're not gonna get too far when people come in here and they're looking at main streets that have this problem, right? And then neighborhoods that as some people have called, I mean, the rats are there, the cockroaches are all over the place. Why? Because nobody's caring for these buildings. My question was, I mean, whatever happened to the insurance?
Because of the health problem.
Sure, there's a big health deal involved.
Go ahead, Mr. Dilley.
Is there a way we can work with the health department to get into this issue, to give us a hand on this? Because it is a health issue now. The one on Alice Street is terrible. It's a health hazard. And the neighbors there already complained. They always jumping on Joe and I every chance they get. I don't know if they jump on you guys, but they've been jumping on us. That area needs to be cleaned up. I don't know if the health department has some legal way of giving us a hand to get the job done.
Well, I mean, I think that they have the same type of legal authority that we do, but once you get to a point where the property owner is not willing to or cannot either demolish the building or clean it up, then we have to face that decision, how much money are we gonna throw into that problem? I know Mr.
Well, let's get to that point. Let's get there and make the decision, yeah.
Mr. Dilley,
Start with Ellis.
Go ahead,
Mr. Mayor, members of council, John, do you know what those numbers were? You had some quotes on some property.
I've got those numbers here.
What are those numbers?
But again, you know, these are just numbers.
What are the numbers?
Well, we got one house here on 164 Ellis Street, it's $11,538. Now, personally, I figure we could sell that lot for $11,000 anyway. I can't imagine that Nogales is that.
Did we quote those 3 homes, John? Did we quote those 3 homes that are burnt right there in that same area?
I've got 2 of them.
You know?
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Dilly, we quoted 2 of the homes. One of the homes has already been cleaned up. So we've only quoted 2 of the 3.
And the quotes for both of those?
Right here.
Tell me what they are.
We have one for $11,538 and one for $24,977 on one quote.
Okay.
Would you want me to
No,
read
that's
the other?
ballpark. That's good. So.
The other quotes.
Higher or lower?
What? $12,700.
Okay.
And $16,000.
Okay. So if we had earmarked in the budget, I understand that we run perhaps even a strong chance, Councilmember Hennessian, that a property owner is going to say, hey, I can't handle this headache, just take the property, here's the title. But for us to assume that that's going to be the case on every property we try to address probably isn't very reasonable.
So but the other assumption is just as unreasonable.
I agree. So we need to plan some number in the budget so that whatever Joe puts forward by way of a policy and a step to get it done, we have the ability to take action regardless of what scenario plays out at the end. Whether the property owner says, hey, here's the title, I can't handle this, or forget it, and we have to go through the condemnation and we have to take care of it ourselves. So maybe what we can do is in the non-departmental budget of the general fund, we earmark $50,000, and that money is that money is earmarked for the mitigation or the mediation of some of these abandoned properties that are presenting health concerns, safety concerns, or just blight concerns. And then we allow that budget number to guide how many properties we can try to address in the course of a year, and take that as our first next step.
Right, I think it'll be good. We can address as many as we can. I mean, we don't have to do every one of them.
Does the council?
I mean, we start that.
The council direct us as staff. Maybe a motion on this is to direct staff.
I'd rather put the money there than in the secretary.
Okay, so
I don't know what.
A possible motion would be to direct staff to earmark $50,000 in the budget.
Yes.
In a non-departmental budget, and we'll put that in the budget, and you guys can just adopt it when you adopt everything else.
Right.
But let this be the starting point.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Let that be the starting point on Alice if we're going to start something legal going on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All 4 or 5 buildings there.
When we create the procedure, then we're going to have to create a procedure so that the council decides what the priority is.
Okay.
If you want an Alice, which Alice is okay with me, but somebody else may not want an Alice, and then we don't want to be put in a position to say, how come you used the $50,000 over there and you didn't get the one I wanted?
I think we're pretty much in agreement on Ellis Street anyway.
Well,
let's get there. When we get there,
an agreement is when we have a motion here and everybody agrees.
I hear them talking, but Joe and myself, and we're not saying anything, so I don't know how we can come down to this.
Can we have a motion to direct staff on $50,000 in non-departmental to go towards this cause?
Mr. Hennessian, you're the one that.
I make that motion.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
All right, and then I'll go ahead and with everyone else and prepare the procedure and how we're going to identify these, bring them back to you, and then you'll determine the priority.
Item number 8. Item number 8, report on recent citizen satisfaction survey. Administration, Mr. Dilly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Is this Aaron gonna do this?
This is Aaron.
Aaron, you got a minute, sir.
30 seconds. You already lost 10
Some
seconds.
mentiras. You lost 10 seconds already.
I think it's.
That's good, that's good. That was a good
No, it's gonna be good. I know.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think it's really important to acknowledge the work that went into this. It's not easy to put a comprehensive citizen satisfaction survey together. It went through several renditions, several drafts before we got it down to, what was it, at first like 8 pages or 10 pages or, anyway.
Come on now.
Okay, so we did a lot of work to pare it down to where we thought it was reasonable. And I also want to acknowledge it being our first attempt at getting this kind of input from the general public. We acknowledge that the participation's weaker than what we would all like to see. I don't know if it's even enough to be statistically sound, but it certainly is a good step forward in terms of reaching out to the general public and allowing them a venue to offer their input, not only to staff, but as we're bringing it forward to council, for council as you consider priorities and how we need to move forward in the budget. So with that said, turn it over to Aaron and he can work through the findings. And then just know that our plan is to, now that this establishes a baseline, we can compare future surveys against this one and can see if we're making progress or if we're not putting resources where they need to be. And that's the whole goal.
There you go.
There you go. Time's up.
Just real quick to talk about probably the biggest result of this is the input that we received, the sheer number of respondents. So I'm sure as all of you saw, you received one in your utility bill. So we sent out about 5,000 in English in every utility bill. We also made the survey available online in both English and Spanish. I'm sure you saw out here in the lobby, we had it available in paper format, both in English and Spanish. So after all that, we had over 200 responses, which I would say is a real good start. But Mr. Dilly's probably about right. It's not enough to really give us a great picture of maybe the general feeling, but at least it gives us an idea of what's out there. And I wanted to touch on the demographics of the respondents. For the most part, everyone was aged 45 plus, and that they had lived in Nogales 20 years or more. The great majority of the respondents identified themselves that way. And they also spoke both English and Spanish, a large majority of them. We even had some English surveys with Spanish comments and Spanish surveys with English comments. So it was very interesting to see that. And it's a good step forward in setting a benchmark now and then identifying, say, another 6 months or 12 months, we can do the same type of survey and from there be able to see if we're making any type of progression. And a few of the highlights that I wanted to touch. If you look at page 2, gives the general feelings of perception of the city and overall ratings of the city. So you can see here the average response number. The higher the number, the better. 5 is the highest. So it was from 1 to 5. The median number is basically, if you have 200 responses, you line them all up in order and you take number 100. That'll be your median number. And then your mode will be the most frequent response that we receive. And so you can look through here and on the first section, the perception of the city image was the lowest number that we got there at about 2.6 average. And the highest was the feeling of safety. So kudos to those people. And for the most part, people feel fairly satisfied, neutral for overall ratings of the city. Police and fire service received generally high remarks. As Mr. Dilly pointed out a few hours ago, the streets department is where we've got the lowest remarks. And also on page 8 of the surveys, we'll see that streets was the overall #1 priority for the respondents to the survey, with almost almost 130 responses of that being a priority. Second place was 50 responses to perception. I can go into further detail if you'd like. I know the time is getting late. But overall, it was a great start, and we'll look forward to moving on and doing another one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. We'll make this available on the city website, as well. If any member of the public here is interested, I have a few copies that I can make.
Thank you. Thank you. Good job. Item number 9, consent agenda. A through C. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Item number 10, consideration and possible action on order number 2012-05-027.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Discussion?
None.
You guys are beating me to it. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 11, consideration and possible action of order number 2012-05-029.
So move.
Second.
Thank you very much. Discussion?
Mr. Mayor, just a question.
Yes.
It's actually a $10,000 sponsorship.
Yes.
It's the city, the county,
Port Authority
and
Fresh produce.
Fresh Produce.
Fresh Produce. Okay.
Any more discussion?
That's it.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 12, consideration possible action of order number 2012-05-030.
Mayor, can we table that? We don't have, that contract's not been returned to us yet.
Okay. All in favor of motion to table item number 12?
Aye.
So moved.
Second?
Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on, please. Do we have a status on that? What's,
I believe we received the contract this morning. I don't know if you got an opportunity.
The last I heard is that we hadn't received it, so I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Okay, let's wait for it then.
we'll bring it back at your
We'll bring
next
it.
meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 13, we'll be going into executive session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Consideration and possible action of order number 2012-05-031.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second. Discussion? None? Hearing none? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We're gonna go to, future agenda items. Does anybody have future agenda items?
Can we turn the neighbors in?
Yes. Yes, you can.
Okay.
Anybody else? Item numbers. Yes, Mr. Parra.
Future
Agenda item. Yes, sir.
Let's get informal about the 4th of July.
Okay.
Gotta be really formal.
Okay, you got it. We'll take care of it for you. And item number 16, city manager's report on current events. Mr. Dilly?
The state legislature recently passed their own budget and have passed it on to the governor for consideration. There's obviously a negotiation process that happens at that point. The governor had a budget of her own, and so probably what she's going to be doing is, doing a compare and contrast, and then a discussion with the Senate or the legislative leads, but we don't know exactly what's going to be the outcome. What I can tell you is that the legislative budget, as it relates to state shared revenues, last year we had $105 million swept from the vehicle license tax fund at the state level. 120 million siphoned off the top of HERF, And then 39 million also taken off of HERF to fund the DMV, if you remember that. That was last year. The legislative budget that was presented to the governor for consideration, let's see, eliminates two of those three that I just read to you. It eliminates the 105 million of BLT, and that directly impacts the amount of some of the money that we're going to be getting into our general fund. So we don't know exactly how that's going to shake out with the governor. And then it got rid of the 39 million off of HERF for DMV, which is a good thing. But it kept 120 million out of HERF that was swept last year, and that stayed in the legislative budget. So it's just a matter of time to see how the governor is going to weigh in on that and what budget is ultimately negotiated and adopted. But for tonight, that's relatively good news in terms of how the outlook looks for some of these state share revenues. And HERF being probably the 900-pound gorilla in the room as it relates to trying to balance the budget. So that's good news.
And also, Mr. Lee, if we can get all the information there on that on the overweight program, just to see how that.
Yeah. The only thing that we have to go off of right now is a commitment from ADOT to outline for cities and towns how that's going to shake out, what the timelines are for distribution of that money, and the parameters in which we're able to use that money within our jurisdictions. So we're kind of at their mercy. We have not heard that information yet, and once we do, we'll make sure that we get it out to the rest of the council. Okay. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is the next possible calendar date for a budget session with you. And I know it's late, but it's absolutely critical. I know Newbar is going to be out for a time here. Some of you have also expressed concerns about meeting next week in terms of a scheduling conflict. So we really need to come up with a date that we can actually meet and have a 2 to 3 hour discussion on this budget. And we need that to happen sometime before the end of May. And the purpose of that is to get through everything and be able to get your collected input and present you a tentative budget. Perhaps even the June 6th meeting. We'd have a meeting kind of like we did today, where we would present the tentative budget to you, and then you would, at that meeting, hoping that everything jives well with you guys, be able to adopt the tentative budget at that June 6th meeting. And then we would schedule and have to advertise for the adoption of a final budget in the month of June at some point in time. So can we please try to get together and come up with a date? I know that Mondays and Wednesdays in the afternoon for Ramon seem to work best given his schedule. So after 3 o'clock on Mondays and Wednesdays, from the input that he's given in finance, that seems to work best for him.
Right.
Make it at 4.
We can do it 4. Okay. We can do it 4. But what day?
I'll be back on the 21st, God willing, right? Unless I get stuck in New Orleans and.
No such luck.
Get the 23rd.
So it's Monday and what?
Monday and Wednesday. So we have the 23rd.
Okay. To me, it's good. I don't think it's a problem.
The 23rd. That's. How's the 23rd looking for you guys? It's a Wednesday. That is the week of graduations. But this is really important, you guys, and we need to schedule this meeting.
What time?
4 o'clock.
Why does it have to be Mondays or Wednesday? Can it not be?
For Ramon.
No, it's a 4 o'clock.
I'm asking about the date. Monday or Wednesday. Why?
Because Ramon is fitting into the schedule.
Oh, for his therapy.
His therapy. Every other day seems to be pretty booked for him. So Mondays and Wednesday afternoons.
That's the only 2 days that he can make.
Whichever date, doesn't matter for me.
I don't think I have a problem. Wednesday would be
Wednesday?
better. Yeah. But
Right,
if there's...
Yes.
23rd. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Cesar? 23rd,
What time?
4 o'clock.
What is it?
Yeah, it looks, yeah.
Wednesday, 23rd at 4 o'clock.
So I have another meeting that day too, so okay.
So plan on at least 2 hours. I'm probably thinking about 3 hours maybe. Okay? We'll try to have
Better snacks.
We'll have
Yeah,
better
better
snacks.
snacks, please.
We'll have better snacks for that meeting.
Well, if you can make it at 3, it doesn't matter on that, I can make it at 3.
Ramon says that he's good at 3.
Ramon can make it till 4.
No,
No, he can make it at 3.
Oh, he can make it 3.
Yeah.
3? Okay.
Okay, 3.
Let's make it at 3 o'clock on Wednesday.
Okay.
So that's gonna be lunch and dinner then?
No. Steak and lobster.
Maybe dinner.
Okay.
Steak and lobster.
The 23rd at 3.
3.
Write it down.
Yep.
And then I'll have, you got it? And then I'll have Letty give you guys a call and just to remind you, but
We're there.
23rd, 3 o'clock.
At 3.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Okay.
let's go, let's
No?
go. We gotta get out of here.
Yeah. Hector?
Mr. Dilly, are we done?
Yes, ma'am. Sir.
Are the lights on? Hector?
Good looking
Are
man.
the lights on?
This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.